Hey, what's up, Exiles, and welcome back to my one-shotty Divine Ire Inquisitor. This build is all about trying to burst down anything it sees. It's capable of dishing out a huge amount of single hit damage thanks to Divine Ire charge build-up mechanism, in addition to powerful crits thanks to the Inquisitor Ascendancy, which basically turns any elemental crit build into a powerful one-shot machine. And that becomes even more powerful with Divine Ire. So you go as a Templar and ascend into an Inquisitor, mainly for the inevitable Judgment node, which you would want to push for as quickly as possible. First you go through Righteous Providence, which gives you 100% crit chance against enemies that are not affected by elemental elements. This is powerful because sometimes you just want to one-shot things and you need a critical strike to be able to do that. And because it's your first attack, it's your first hit, it will have 100% crit chance against the target because they are still not affected by any of your elemental elements because it's your first hit. So if the enemy is not like a super boss, it's like a normal, like a tough rare monster or a mob boss, you will be able to one-shot it like immediately. And this node makes it easier. If the target was able to tank your first hit, assuming it was a crit, then you will get 45% crit multi against it for the remainder of your charges, because it will be affected by our shock because we are lightning build, and now you gain 45% crit multi against enemies that are affected by elemental elements. And that's like more damage over time as you keep hitting the monster again and again and so on. If you deal a crit, you will be dealing like 7 times more or 8 times more damage compared to when you are not dealing a crit, thanks to the second node, which is Inevitable Judgment. This one makes it so that your hits ignores enemy monster resistance. This is extremely powerful as bosses have 50% resistance against all elements. And with this node, you have basically doubled your damage because by default, half of your damage goes against the resistance and the other half goes against the enemy boss. And with this node, you basically deal 100% damage to the boss instead of 50%. So if we assume that you have 100% crit chance against bosses, with this node now you have double damage. And yes, you could build up like lightning penetration in this build, but why would you do that when you can just like go Inquisitor with this node? And it's not difficult to have like 80 plus effective crit chance in this game. So yeah, this node is basically the whole point of why people play Inquisitor with Divine Ire. Next we go defensive route. We have Sanctuary. This one gives you Consecrated Ground, in addition to increase enemies damage taken by 10% if they are standing on your consecrated ground, and it gives you mana regen while you are standing on the ground, so that's a way to sustain the channeling mana cost of Divine Ire. And you push through that to Pious Path. This one gives you attack and cast speed basically all the time because it does so while you are standing on consecrated ground, and this one gives you the consecrated ground all the time, so you have 20% attack and cast speed. Like, it's an onslaught effect but without the movement speed, and it's permanent. And you regenerate 200% energy shield per second while standing on consecrated ground for 4 seconds even after you start moving. And that's basically, this node like makes you very tanky. It makes you immune to all elemental elements, and that makes some bosses in this game like extremely easy, like the Elder Guardians, because each one of them has like his own elemental element. So yeah, that's your defensive side of the tree, and that's your offensive side of the tree. And thanks to the top side, we gain lots of like energy shield regeneration, thanks to converting all the life regen we get from the consecrated ground, but with the Zealot's Oath basically, they now become energy shield regeneration, in addition to the 200 flat regen you gain from here. And yeah, that's the Ascendancy. For the passive tree, you can just copy it from the link in the description, but I will talk about the important bits. We take the cast speed node here, we take the sanctity node, basically the best node for energy shield regenerating builds in the game. We go top, we take energy shield mana scaling. We take one jewel socket at the edge of the passive tree because we have a cluster jewel over here. Now you want 2 specific things from your large cluster jewel. You would want Practiced Caster and Arcane Adept as your notables, and you would want the passive nodes that have rolled on the jewel to have to give you 3% increased cast speed. This is powerful because the jewel by default will give you 10% spell damage if it had that enchant, and you should be going for that. So now it will, each small node will give you 3% cast speed and 10% spell damage, and you will just like take a spin around the large cluster jewel, take the tool jewel sockets if you can, and just like put normal jewels in them, and that's basically it. Now you could basically expand with medium jewels and then small jewels, but like why would you do that when you can just like have a similar amount of damage by just like putting a 4 modded jewel in each socket? And by the way, this build is very passive node hungry, so we really can't invest more into like an expanded cluster passive tree, because there are many other efficient ways to scale our damage. Like there are too many crit nodes on the tree that we should take. Here, and here. We have crit nodes over here. We have crit nodes over here. So it's like there are too many mandatory damage nodes on the tree, to the point where that we don't have like many spare passive points to just like expand our cluster jewel. So we just like go for a large one. We invest into almost all of it, and that will give you more damage than you can, for example, get from like taking both of these over here. And yeah, that's your cluster jewel. For normal jewels, you would want energy shield, crit multi with lightning skills, crit chance, or crit multi with elemental skills as a suffix. And you can have spell damage, resistances, attributes. Basically, what you are missing, you just like compensate with it with your suffixes. But for the prefixes, you would want increased maximum energy shield and crit multi with lightning skills. That's how a perfect jewel should look like in terms of damage. And yeah, that's it for jewels and cluster jewel. As I said, you have crit clusters over here, here, you have over here, and you have over here. And go down, take assassination and trickery, just like lots of crit, because if you are not critting with as an Inquisitor, if you are not critting over 80% of the time, then you are not like really scaling your damage with inevitable judgment as you are supposed to do. So try to go for 80 plus crit chance, effective crit chance. And yeah, so that's the tree. Aside from the crits, we have pain atonement because we are low life, and yeah, that's basically it. And just like lots of crits and damage with a proper cluster jewel. If you simply can't get a combination like this, then just like take this over here and over here. They will give you like 20% less damage compared to the investment over here, but like still very budget option, and it's not going to let you down in terms of payout on investment for each passive point. The tree is in the description. Feel free to copy it for yourself. Now let's talk about items. We are low life, which means that we run chevrons wrapping. It allows you to basically have the benefits of Bane Atonement all the time as you are low life. So that's 30% more spell damage. Now here we have Divine Ire linked with increased critical strike support gem. Again, we need to have as high effective crit chance as possible. So this gem is basically a no-brainer. We have Awakened added lightning support gem. Try to go for this one, the Awakened version. If you cannot, then basically use Control Destruction. Yes, it does reduce your effective crit chance, but the 44% more spell damage is nothing to scoff at. And yeah, that's it. We have Inspiration. It reduces the mana cost of Divine Ire, allowing you to sustain building up charges with a very high cast speed build. It gives you more elemental damage and more crit chance. And yeah, that's a perfect gem for this build because it's damage, it's crit, it's reduced mana cost. So there is really no reason not to have it. We have infused the channeling and fist to lightning. Many people doesn't know this, but Divine Ire is actually a physical spell as a start. It does convert 50% of its base physical damage into lightning, which means that you need to convert the other 50% in order to make the skill usable. And we have Fist to Lightning to do that. You could potentially build up a 50%, another 50% Fist to Lightning conversion if you don't want to use this gem, for example, by basically going over here. This node gives you 10%. This one gives you no, this one doesn't give you anything. Here this one gives you 15%, so that now total of 25%, and you can craft 25% fist to lightning on your gloves. So yeah, that's basically how you can achieve 100% fist to lightning without having to use this gem. But like, you can use it and you will have a bonus of up to 30% fist to lightning, fist gained as lightning, in addition to the conversion. And yeah, that's it. If you wanted to swap this gem and did what I've told you to do, then use control destruction instead. You will have more damage, but you will have to invest more into the passive tree, which means that you have to drop some damage nodes, which might end up being equal to doing what I've done over here. And yeah, that's it. Because we have lots of base physical damage on Divine Ire, it would make sense to have fizz gained as lightning on both of your weapons. As you can see here, I have double tier 1, which is equal 20% per roll, so that you can have 20% on every item that can roll fizz as lightning. So we have 20% here, 20% here, 20% on amulet, and you can have up to 25% on Watcher's Eye. So, and we have 30% from this gem, so we have over 130% fizz gained as lightning. So it will be more efficient to just like add physical damage to spells instead of adding lightning damage to spells. And that's exactly why I have told you to get a control destruction gem instead of added lightning damage, unless if it was awakened added lightning damage, because the added lightning damage would be like much higher and will make this gem more like better than control destruction. But still, if you want to scale your damage, you just like add physical damage to spells using an abyss jewel like this one, which will be placed in your Stygian Vice. So back to weapons, we have Fizz as Lightning, which by the way, I'm crafting that on a cast speed wand, double of them, because cast speed allows you to build up charges faster with Divine Ire, and for every charge you deal 100% more damage. So 100% more damage of your base damage, not like the previous charge. And yeah, that's it. We have cast speed, tier 1 cast speed on a cast speed base, and just it crafted double spell damage, hybrid and craft, and we have crit multi. Same thing here, we have Fizz as Lightning, cast speed, crit multi, and the crafted spell damage. And yeah, that's it. That's how perfect wands should look like. For gems in your wands, I have a blood magic linked with zealotry. This one reserves all of my life, and I have level 1 precision over here. For your amulet, we have Fizz as Lightning again. I have 1% increased damage per 15 intelligence. I have tier 1 crit multi, and I have multi-modded into crit chance and increased maximum energy shield. I have allocated tranquility because we have invested a decent amount of energy shield in this build, so that will end up giving us a decent amount of damage for an enchant. If you cannot afford to basically allocate tranquility because it requires 2 golden oils, then you can go for Breath of Lightning or Heart of Thunder if you didn't take them already. And yeah, that's it for the amulet. For rings, we have a Crusader rings. Why? Because they can roll percentage increased maximum energy shield. Here I have flat energy shield, percentage energy shield, crafted up to 20% damage, intelligence, strength, and a resist. And same thing here, I have added lightning damage against shocked enemies, in addition to added chance to shock. I have energy shield, percentage, resistances, intelligence, and crafted damage. And that's it for your rings. For boots, we have movement speed, double energy shield, intelligence, and I have 2% life regen per second, because that will be converted into energy shield regenerated per second thanks to Zealot's Oath. For gem links over here, I have faster casting linked with Portal. I have lightning warp and less duration. This is basically a fast lightning warp setup. For gloves, you have basically same thing. You have energy shield on all of your prefixes. For suffixes, I have a chance to blind, and socketed gems are supported by level 20 blind. This is not required, but we have a support setup over here, a 5 link arc setup. This will help you by blinding enemies and applying a assassin's mark curse by linking arc with the curse on hit support. So this will apply the curse to almost everything in front of you, and just like you then blast them with Divine Ire. And you use this against bosses like 2 or 3 times before you start actually engaging them. It will blind them and it will apply Assassin's Curse, and it will have up to 1% base crit effectiveness against bosses. By default it has 2.5, but it will be reduced to 1% base crit because bosses have 60% reduced effective curses on them. And finally we have Innervate. If you kill something with Arc, then that will give your character the Innervate buff, which adds the flat lightning to all of your lightning skills. And that's another way to add damage to our main 6 link, basically making it a 6.5 link. If you kill something with Arc, it's basically a useless gem against bosses because you will not be damaging them with Arc, and you will not be killing like things while hitting a boss. So it's just like a support setup. It's mainly used while you are mapping, and just like use it 2 or 3 times against bosses to blind them and apply the linked curse. And for build, we have a Stygian Vice with lots of energy shield, a resist. It wouldn't hurt to have energy shield recovery rate because that will increase the total amount of energy shield you gain every second, basically allowing you to be more tanky indirectly. You can have energy shield recovery rate on your Watcher's Eye as well, up to 30% while affected by discipline, so that's around 54% with Catalyst on your build. So that's like almost half more energy shield recovered for your character every second. And we have lots of regen. We can almost sustain a Righteous Fire, by the way, which will increase your damage, but I didn't go for that because I will not have any spare regeneration if I have taken a hit. And yeah, but you could do that basically and just like push for a little bit more regeneration, and you will be able to sustain Righteous Fire, which is basically 40% more spell damage all the time. And that's basically like running a 7-link. For the Abyss Jewel, we have added Fizz damage to spells while dual wielding, and same thing with lightning damage to spells while dual wielding, and just like lots of damage from a single Abyss Jewel. We have here with Inspiration charges, we have 1 million tooltip. Now it's 1.1 million tooltip, so that's like 10% more damage from this jewel. Just because it adds physical damage, and adding physical damage to Divine Ire is more efficient than added lightning damage because you will be gaining lots of lightning damage from your physical damage. So yeah, that's a way to scale your spell damage. For Helm, we have it's a very universal choice. I have the Vertex, mostly because it's easy to corruption hunt for this item. I have 2% life regen as a corruption. It wasn't expensive at all. I have paid like 2 exalts for this and gained that free 2% life regen. And we have Chaos Resistance. It gives a +1 to level of socketed gems. This is good because it allows our big auras to have +1 level. We have level 21 Discipline, 22 Herald of Purity, which by the way adds a flat physical damage to spells, so that's even more lightning damage in the end. We have Wrath, level 21 Wrath, again thanks to the +1 from the Helm. One thing that this helm will help you with is greatly reducing the cost of the build by basically making your level 3 Enlighten a level 4, and this will be exactly the breaking point to be able to run a Wrath, Discipline, Herald of Purity, and Precision while having over 60 mana remaining, which is exactly the amount you need to like have a relaxed mana pool remaining to be able to like use Divine Ire and the rest of your skills freely. And it will not work with anything lower than level 4 Enlighten, and it's really for that reason why I went with the Vertex. If you decided to go with an Elder Helm that adds flat physical damage to spells and like has 400 energy shield or something like that, then you will need to use level 4 Enlighten instead of level 3, because the build will not work otherwise, and you will be lacking on mana to be able to even like use the last aura, not even just like casting, but you will not have enough to use the aura setup I have over here, which is again Wrath, Discipline, Herald of Purity, linked with level 3 Enlighten, which is now level 4. And yeah, that's it for your aura setups and gem links and items. For Flask, I have a Quicksilver Flask with immunity to curses as usual. I have a Sulfur Flask, generally a good flask for the 40% increased damage it gives. So yeah, I just like have one over here. If you want to amplify your damage even more, then you might want to go for Bottled Faith. It will give you lots of base crit, 10% amplified damage against bosses, and it will allow your Consecrated Ground to have tripled the radius. And it's very powerful on Templars for that reason. It's very expensive, and I just didn't like to invest 20 exalts for that alone. Next, I have an Onslaught Flask. Onslaught gives you 20% cast speed and 20% movement speed. It also gives attack speed, but that's not really important. They are both good, obviously. I have crafted here increased movement speed and chance to avoid stun during Flask effect because we don't have stun immunity. You could go with Presence of Chayula with the same oil enchantment, but you will lack like 20% of your damage. But you will have 1000 more energy shield, so that's almost 9000. And you can invest into Clarity, Mana to ES, Watcher's Eye mod, and you will have over 10,000 energy shield. If you like that, you then go for it. But I prefer to have lots of damage instead. So I have went with a high damage Shaper Amulet. Next I have Diamond Flask. That's a no-brainer with crit builds. I have rolled here movement speed and increased duration. And finally I have a Granite Flask. Just like lots of armor over here and crit chance during Flask effect. And yeah, that's it. For Pantheons, I have decided to go for the Soul of a Prying King for the Majors. This is good because, again, we don't have stun immunity, and it prevents you from getting chain stunned. Basically allows you to freely cast Divine Ire without being interrupted. And for the minor ones, I have went with the Soul of Tokohama, mostly because you will be stationary while casting Divine Ire all the time. And that means that you will be getting up to 2% life regen every second and 8% fizz damage mitigation while stationary. And even if you want to move, you will be moving using your Lightning Warp, and you can only cast that while stationary. So that's almost a permanent life regen and fizz damage mitigation effect. And yeah, that's it. For bandits, I have obviously decided to help Alira because she gives us resistances, mana regen, and crit multi, and that's everything you will ever want in this build. And yeah, that's it for the build. If you guys have enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe. Maybe turn on notifications so you don't miss any future build guides like this one. My name is Phoenix, and I will see you all in the next video.